Do you guys ever like shave your legs and they're like super smooth and then you can't stop touching them because they're so smooth? Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elsa Wells and this week I want to talk about stress. This video was requested by my really good friend Morgan, and I want to talk about stress and how stress affects me, how I've noticed stress affecting others, and how I've noticed my own ways of combating stress pretty much. I think this is quite important to talk about because it's that time of year. There are exams, there is work from work, and then there's coursework, and then there's everything and all the other pressures that you have to feel now that 2017 is 4 months in, like what? But I thought we should talk about some stress stuff. Let's make stress stuff. It's less scary that way. What I found stress seems to do is it appears to consume people. It like eats people up on the inside, absolutely entirely, and it affects people in completely different ways. Some people appear to get like stress night sweats, so in the middle of the night they get really fidgety and get really warm, and they get really stressed and they get like sweaty because of how stressed they are. Their heart is going so much faster, and that is like an absolutely terrifying. You're like, oh my god, I've got to get this done, blah blah, like I've got deadlines. That's something that I found to seem to have an effect on people. There's also different kinds of things that you do when you are dealing with stress. You overeat or you undereat, so you find yourself snacking a bit more because you're so stressed that you need to grab whatever you see, like the quickest, junkiest food, like crisps, popcorn, sweets, donuts, cake. I mean, everyone loves cake, I think, and everyone should eat cake every day anyway, but when you stress eat, I find that people eat more cake. And you might find that you feel really uncomfortable in those times because of the kind of foods that you're eating, and that makes you even more stressed. So it's this entire cycle that's going on. And then also there are people who undereat when they're really stressed. These people probably get so stressed that they can't eat. I'm in between. So I had to write my dissertation recently, and I found myself so stressed about it because I just did not leave myself enough time to get it done. Sometimes I wouldn't eat for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end because I was so stressed about everything that was going on. And sometimes I would overconsume anything I could find. It wasn't a great time. Another thing I found is people tend to sleep differently when they're stressed. Some people, like I said, get night sweats or stress sweats. They generally don't sleep very much. They stay up later in the evenings, and they are just awake for a long period of time in the night, just worrying about all the work that they might have to do, and that piece of project that you have to get done for next week, and you're worried you haven't done enough or that you haven't prepared for enough. So people generally like get super stressed and sleep less than normal, and they go to bed super late at ridiculous hours, and then they're really tired the next day because they just didn't sleep. Or there are people like me who oversleep. When I get really stressed, I'm like, I have to have a nap, and I will have a nap and I can sleep for 5 hours, and I'll wake up and I still want another nap. And that's what I'm like when I'm really stressed and I oversleep. So then I get even more stressed because I overslept, and the stress is making me so tired that I just want to sleep all the time. Stress affects us in so many different ways. What I've also noticed with me is when I get super stressed, not just a little stressed, because I don't get stressed unless it's a super stress, and that's what my biggest problem is. And I'm slowly finding ways in trying to be not super stressed, but maybe little stress. Little stress is good because that keeps you moving. But I find that I get really stressed, and when I get super stressed, I feel it like eating inside me on the inside, and I feel so sick and like, oh, that if I stop thinking about it, then it's fine. But then if something reminds me of it, I start eating me up again, and it's like this whole process until I get it done. I find that stress makes people really unhappy, obviously, and I find that stress affects your relationships with other people. I know for a fact that I am so grumpy when I'm stressed that I will snap at you so much more than I would if I wasn't stressed. And that's terrifying. Like, I will tell you off, or I will be sarcastic, or I will be super rude, if I'm super stressed, watched it happen to numerous people in my life. It has caused a lot of fights, I'd say, and I don't think that's okay. And I think we all need to come in and find a way to not be stressed and find a way to not take it out on other people, because our relationships are what help us get over stress in some cases. In most cases, being awful to the people around us when we're stressed does not help our case at all, will just make you more unhappy when you realise you've been super rude. You may not have even realised it, but you'll realise it one day. One of the most stressful times in my entire life that I remember clearly and vividly, and it was an awful summer for me, was getting into university. This was after I was offered a conditional offer from my university that I'm attending, and I was super stressed because I didn't exactly get the grades that were required. I didn't know what to do. I was just waiting and waiting and waiting to hear from the university whether or not I'm allowed to, go there in September. And I just remember being so stressed. I remember my entire family being so stressed. It was just a really hard time, I think. And I think we were all stressed in our own way about it, and we were all so worried. It was just a really stressful period of time, and I found myself lashing out a little bit more than I normally would, and I found myself kind of concentrating on the not so important parts of my life, I think, and that made the entire process so much more difficult. So I think if I could go back now and tell my 18-year-old self, is that you can't stress too much about things which are entirely out of your control. I had nothing that I could do for the university to make them choose me, because everything was kind of just, the grades are out, they had my grades, they had everything. I'm just waiting for their verdict pretty much at this point, and I wish I could go back and just tell myself not to stress about something that's so out of my control that there's nothing I can do to change the fact that they might not let me into the university, or they might let me into the university, and that's up to them to decide. So if you find yourself in a situation where you can't actually do anything to change it, because whatever happens, and then when something happens, then you deal with it. Doesn't mean you can't prepare for either situation. Being super stressed does not help the situation at all, because there's nothing you can do to change the fact or whatever is going to happen. So remember that next time you're in a situation where you know nothing you can do can change the verdict or whatever's going to happen. If there is something you can do, do whatever you must to change and to help yourself out. If there's nothing you can do, you need to take a step back and find a way to deal with it without getting super stressed, because otherwise it's not worth it. These are my 3 tips on how I would like to try and stay on a low level of stress in situations where I have to do something important, like my dissertation, which was a nightmare, and I was so stressed because I'm one of those people that I just won't do it. If I'm so stressed, I literally will just walk away and be like, I'm not doing it. These are my 3 tips on how I got the work done. Take a step back, literally, from your computer, go away, go into another room, don't have any distractions on you, and just breathe. If you find yourself getting super stressed where you can't concentrate, you can't think, you can't move, you can't, just try and get yourself away from whatever is causing the stress. I find this to be quite helpful because it lets you walk away, give yourself a minute, and then potentially just carry on. Whether that's a night's sleep, a run, go to the gym, eat a dinner, that might actually help clear your mind and help you find a new way to tackle your project that you're doing. Make a to-do list, make it very clear, and make sure you split every task into little bits and do one bit at a time. Do maybe first create a rough outline of an essay, for example, so that way you've kind of got a plan already in your head on how to tackle the project that you've got to do. So outline everything you need to learn first, just basics, not even like the specific things that you have to learn, just the basic titles for everything. And then you cross that off the list, and once you've crossed that first thing off the list, it already makes you feel so much better. I found this works for me so well. I make a list and I tick everything out, and that way I get everything done, and every time I tick one off the list it feels so satisfying. I'm becoming less and less stressed, and I'm eventually getting it done. This means that I'm not looking at the entire project as a whole, I'm looking at all the little aspects of it, and when you look at all the little bits, it's less scary than the entire thing. So I get less stressed when I do it that way. Or if I was to just tackle the entire thing in one go, that would be terrifying. I think it helps with stress is a warm drink, whether that is hot chocolate or decaffeinated tea or coffee. I think decaf is the way to go if you're super stressed sometimes. Although I won't take my own advice very often, I am obsessed with coffee problems. Drinking decaffeinated drinks, for example tea, can make you feel really calm. I recommend hot chocolate sometimes in the evenings because hot chocolate, milk chocolate calms you down, chocolate makes you feel happy, everything like that. So I recommend to have a hot drink with you because it just helps you kind of soothe as it goes down. You can feel a bit more calm about everything. Instead of reaching for the food and all the snacks that you could eat, I would recommend just reaching for a hot drink. I think tea is the solution to everything. Yeah. And also, a final tip, don't work in an environment where things are happening constantly in the background. Try and find a place to go that is super calm, quiet, not too quiet. I hate really quiet. I find that if it's super quiet, I can't concentrate. But if it's like, there's a tiny bit of noise, but not lots of noise, that's the perfect environment for you to go and do your work, I think, in my opinion. So I really hope that you can try and find a way to combat all the stress that you're doing, whether that is revision, whether that is anything in your life, finding a place to live, like me writing a dissertation, like all students, doing exams like all students, or anything difficult in a workplace environment that's super stressful, for example a deadline that you must meet. You can do anything, trust me. Just make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because once you're taken care of, everything else will fall into place eventually. And that's it for this video today, guys. I hope I helped you guys at all in any way. Maybe take some of my suggestions, try them out, see if they work. If they do, let me know, and let me know some of your ways that you use to combat your own stress levels, just to make sure you're calm. Let me know. I'd love to know because I get really stressed. I know everyone does, so I think everyone would appreciate to hear some of your thoughts as well. So I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of the day and have a lovely week next week, and click the thumbs up button below and subscribe for more videos absolutely every single week. I will see you guys all very soon. Bye!